Hello, and thank you for calling technical support. I am Kamala. How may I help you?
Yeah, hi. I got a pop-up on my computer, and it told me to call this number.
Okay, I can help you, sir, but first you will need to drive to Walmart and purchase $500 gift cards.
Well, great. I'm a Democrat, so that makes perfect sense.
That was it. It's not. You guys know if the video plays properly, I'm not alone. So there's no way I could pull that off. So why don't you just stop your nonsense, Rob? If it was me doing that, there would have been ghetto audio. Probably wouldn't have played properly.
You would have been holding your phone up to the camera to try to show people.
Literally, you would have been like, guys, look at the next opening video. Nick is joining us. He's running a few minutes late. I think he's kidnapping Mexicans and making them sign up to vote for Trump. Allegedly. He will be here shortly. Yeah, man, it's been a very strange, slow news week the past couple of weeks. So we just like, why don't we just riff on some theological topics? Before that, I texted you the other day. I didn't post it on Twitter or anything, but my freaking wife and daughter went to the store the other day, and some skeevy old guy said, "Oh, Huck Tua spit on that thing," to my wife and daughter. And I was not there, but you posted just after I texted that to you, because I texted that to you privately. Mm-hmm. I saw you tweeted out just like, what a sign of degradation that girl is to our culture.
Yeah, and yet conservatives seem to love her. Conservatives.
Yeah, it's so insane. Like I wanted to get in my car and go beat the crap out of somebody that I had no idea who he was, but like the idea that somebody would say that to a mother and her 13-year-old daughter, like just it just shows, like, because we're very hard on women on this show, but I don't even know what word I would use, not degradation, but just the way men are from watching filth on the internet, just how much it has desensitized them to what is appropriate. That you would say.
Even having that thought cross your head, right? Should be, I mean, that's enough.
No, well, the funny thing is my wife doesn't know the reference, right? So my wife had no idea what the hell that was. Yeah, well, we're not
going to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, we could explain it, but I'm not going to ever play the video of where it came from. It's those guys go down a spring break and they catch girls that are drinking and they ask them questions. And this girl said one of the most lewd things you could imagine when the guy asked her something along the lines of like, how do you impress a guy or something? And she just made that lewd comment. And she became famous overnight. And now she's being like brought on podcasts. Like people are like, want to talk, like I've never been so annoyed with someone's 15 minutes of fame in my life. It's just disgusting that I saw Bill Maher brought her on his podcast, and this creep, I didn't watch it. I saw people posting clips of it, that this creep brought her on and tried to basically give her the not Epstein, what's his name? The Weinstein couch. Like brought her in and tried to mentor her, thinking that he's going to get this 22-year-old drunk. And I mean, he's a creepy 6-year-old. It really is just, it was like appalling to watch even the clips that people were posting. I don't know where this culture is going.
Nowhere good.
We're waiting for Nick to discuss this topic though, but listening to Anthony Stein's video this morning made me want to bring it up, because I've been watching him and then just listening to Candace Owens' show lately, which I never watched Candace before she left the Daily Wire. And I've been just checking her out here and there, and just listening to some of the horrific things the American government has done just made me like, I don't know, man. I think America is probably the most evil empire that ever existed. I think it rivals Rome and Babylon.
Probably, yeah. I don't disagree with that. that's for sure.
Just the amount of Catholic things that it has tried to destroy, right? I mean, you talk about since its inception, you saw Christendom starting to blossom in South America and Central America, and America just dipping their fingers in, causing revolution after revolution, trying to overthrow these Catholic governments. It just has me disgusted with the entire idea of America lately. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the more you learn, the more kind of black-pilled you can easily become. That's for sure. You know, from things like the Know Nothing riots in New York to the assassination of Gabriel Garcia Moreno in Ecuador and things like that. Yeah, it's bad stuff.
Just one thing after another. And they're all, and even during World War II, the bombings in Germany, the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, like
even before the atomic bombings, the fire bombings we did of Tokyo, you know, Japan, their cities were largely wood and paper. Like that's what their houses were made out of because it's such a temperate climate. So what did we do? We designed special little incendiary bombs and created a firestorm over Tokyo where it literally changed the weather in one big fire tornado, and it killed far more than the atomic bombings did.
That's so crazy. Like people don't realize. It's funny when you watch people discuss whether it was justified to drop the 2 bombs. Like Japan was pretty much on the verge of surrendering anyway, and they
had been asking to surrender for 6 months prior to the atomic bombs.
But we had invested so much into that project, we just wanted to test our new toy out.
Well, we demanded unconditional surrender, which was basically a new concept in history. You know, surrenders before that were always conditional, right? And they were negotiations. And we said, no negotiations. You will surrender and let us do whatever we want to you.
That's so crazy. I mean, look, they picked the fight they couldn't handle. I can understand America demanding that, but just the idea of dropping a bomb that incinerated an entire island, and that wasn't enough. We had to drop a second one just to make sure.
Yep.
Man. All right, we're just trying to kill some time. You want to talk about the did you see the let's see, we got all right, so we could do some of the UK stuff. We got the Chat GPT thing that I sent you. Did you watch any of that?
No.
Alex O'Connor talking to Chat GPT. Like it's pretty scary. I don't know if you want to play that, but that we might get a copyright strike on.
Yeah, that's a YouTube video.
All right, you know what we'll do? We'll do the update on the transgender hermit.
Oh, great. Let me see. I know you sent that to me. Here we go.
Yeah, let's bring up the update on the transgender hermit. Transgender Catholic hermit joins several gender confused women at Father James Martin's conference. These are great men who fully should be in religious communities. The only reason that they're not admitted is because of their medical history, their trans status, said transgender man Nicole Matson. This is such a weird story because this whatever was on the journey home.
And they look so much like she looks so much like a man. She had to be the ugliest woman alive, right?
Yeah, dude. I don't know. She had me fooled. So
when they were saying trans, I'm like, this dude think he's gonna try to be a woman? He doesn't look anything like
I was completely fooled by it. So the controversial trans identified diocesan hermit known as Brother Christian Cole Matson joined Father Martin's Rainbow Conference to promote the admission of trans people into religious communities.
By the way, that is the conference that Francis wrote a personal handwritten letter of support to people.
Yeah, this is wild. According to Dissident National Catholic Reporter, a prominent guest and speaker at the recent pro outreach conference was Brother Christian Matson, the woman born as Nicole Matson, who now presents herself as a man. You know what? It's refreshing to read this story from LifeSite, because if you tried to read this story from any other outfit, like you would be doing
Yeah.
you'd be like bending over backwards to understand the pronouns and stuff. Okay, so NCR reported that Matson, who has previously attended Martin's outreach conferences, was joined at the event by 5 young trans men who joined him. Yeah, so they're even putting everything in quotes. Joined him in a private retreat. In addition to partaking in the weekend program, Matson attended the conference with the intent to support these men, help them connect with the broader community, and learn how to better serve the community. So it's even with them, it's just too much.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's just too much. Raised Presbyterian, Matson explained to RNS that she converted to Catholicism 4 years after her sex change in college, which she referred to as part of her medical history rather than a central part of her personal identity. According to Matson's own testimony, she frequently felt called to minister to those involved in the arts and received approval from Stowe to establish herself as a diocesan hermit. So readily accepted, fully aware of Matson's identity as a trans man. NCR's report noted that Matson felt her trans lifestyle corroborated and supported by the outreach conference on which LifeSite has reported. Yeah, this is just a bizarre story. Could you imagine this? Oh, thank you, Laura. That would be great. Could you imagine this 10 years ago, 12 years ago?
No.
Like, honestly, under the Benedict papacy, could you even imagine something like this happening? And there's not even any outrage. It's just a little small story in LifeSite and idiots like us talking about it, but it's not condemned, nothing. They get a letter of support from the Pope. It's pretty strange.
It is. It's almost beyond belief, really.
I saw I got a phone call from Jeremiah yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was he demanding you apologize to him again?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that bridge is kind of done.
Yeah, he burned that one.
I just
Among
don't know
others.
what. Yeah, I don't know where there is to go from there. Like he keeps saying things about me behind my back, and then he deletes it, and then he calls me. I'm just like, I was going to answer the call, and I was like, you know what, man, I don't know. Like, what's even the point in this conversation? So, yeah. Did you see? Don't mind us, guys. You guys are dealing with a little bit. If for anybody that catches the replay, if you want to skip ahead until Nick joins the show, this is all just mindless banter we're going through. Did you see?
Which is usually what our shows are, just in general. So,
did you see what Milo said about Kanye today?
About the dentist,
dude. Is that a crazy story?
I mean, all about the dentist. That's what's crazy. Like. There's this dentist out there that's drugging celebrities.
So what's going on is, so this isn't a regular dentist. So
it's the guy who basically puts diamonds in their teeth, right?
He puts grills in for people. Okay. So I found it. Okay. There's a reason Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, is no longer capable. Oh, he needs the link. Why does he need the link?
I don't know. You shouldn't need the link.
Go to get access. All right, Nick's coming. Hang on. I'll get him the link. This is a slow start to a show, boy. All right, here we go. All right, Nick's coming. Okay, so there's a reason Ye, formerly known as Kanye, is no longer capable of successfully releasing music or clothing. In fact, there are several reasons, but the most serious and the most recent is his dentist, Thomas Connolly. Connolly got Ye hooked on nitrous laughing gas, so nitrous oxide. It is my belief that Connolly sought to diminish Ye's mental faculties so that Connolly and his business associates could extract millions from him.
I don't know if it was possible to diminish whatever mental faculties were there.
Well, the crazy thing is, Milo's been saying this for a while. This isn't some...
I know, because he's...
Milo's out there, but earlier this year, I uncovered the fraud and intervened. Ye, whatever his name is, hooked on nitrous, blew up our relationship on purpose by proposing something he knew I'd have to resign over. Oh, so Milo winds up resigning. Where you been, leaving us floundering over here?
What's up, my nuances? You guys doing good?
Where were you tonight?
I was actually at a choir practice, believe it or not.
Choir practice. It's pronounced
Yeah.
yay? I thought it was ye.
I have a life outside of the stream.
Kanye. So you sing in at the local Novus Ordo choir.
Yeah, bro, you gotta have bad voices for that, so that's why they hired me.
One bread, one body.
One bread, one body, baby. Let's go. Maybe that'll be one of Kamala's entrance songs. That'd be pretty epic. One bread, one body. Pretty good.
They're all saying it's yay. They're all saying it's yay, but I thought it was ye because of like Yeezy.
Oh,
They're
for
saying
Kanye? No, it's
Kanye.
yay. It's yay.
Yay?
It's yay. It's yay. Yeah.
Right.
It's stupid is what it is.
So
I'm not crazy about these rappers constantly changing their names. So I texted you guys earlier today. I'm like, I think we should talk about the whore of Babylon.
Earlier today, you texted at us at 4 a.m.
Was it
Yeah,
that
pretty
early?
early. It was pretty early. It was like 4 or 5, something like that.
No, it wasn't. Stop it.
I woke up to it. I know that.
I had just woken up, I think. I have to remember that Anthony goes to work at like 1 a.m. to build castles and stuff, and he's just on Twitter constantly trying to figure out what to stream.
That is my look. It's been a slow news week the past couple of days. So like yesterday we were going to come on and I was like, I don't know. There's not really much to talk about. Like there's not anything jumping out in the news. And then this morning I figured like maybe we could just get on and just riff on theology or something. I don't know. Like I've been drawing a blank. My mind's I got nothing. So I figured we get on because I was telling Rob, like I've been listening to all these
question. This is a good question.
All right, let's just do question Nick today.
That's a good question. To be honest, that is a really tough question. But I think I'd probably pick the Kamala Harris rally.
Than going to a Novus Ordo.
Yeah.
You could at least laugh in good conscience at the Kamala Harris rally.
Yeah, I could film too. I could troll a little bit. So
why don't we play the Kamala clip that I sent, Rob?
we can do that. You guys not
the
give
one
me
we
notes
opened with,
about
right?
super chats?
We got one super chat so far, but we'll see how the show
go.
goes. We're just gonna riff tonight. Like this is gonna be a different kind of show. We're just gonna do some theological musings.
Super chats in some questions if you guys want me to answer your niche theology questions from a very rigid perspective.
Well, I want to talk to you about the apocalypse and Babylon and the whore. So that's what we're going to get into tonight. And you're going to tell us about what the manuals say, and we're going to go from there.
So I couldn't put it in the title. I couldn't put it in the thumbnail. I'm sure it's on your list of words we can't say. And the first chance you get, you say whore.
Harlot. No, my brain is firing on like half cylinders right now. I don't know.
It is one of those
all right,
weird
let's play the quick Kamala video. We did this for Nick.
You know, we have to stay woke. Like everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
You know what woke means? It means you're a loser. Everything woke. Everything woke. It's true. Everything woke turns to shit. Okay? Look at what's happening.
We'll probably get a copyright strike for that stupid song.
Dude, that's so funny. Man. Yeah, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. That crap is so bad. Just
ridiculousness. All right, I'm going to look back and I'm going to see what my thoughts are this morning. Because I was listening to Anthony Stein this morning and I was listening to Bishop Strickland talk about how there are so many bad bishops in the church. And I think my thought is that Babylon will be it'll be the new, like a new Rome that comes about. So it'll be this new system of control. And it's going to have power through like tyranny, like Rome did. Like Rome's power was through crucifixion, essentially. Like it would crucify their slaves. It would just torment people. That's how it kept peace through the world. It was this system of power. And what it seems like to me through the evil empire of America. Now, I don't know if it's specifically America or the entity that seems to be in charge of America, the entity that chose Kamala as their handpicked candidate. the entity that seems to have overthrown our last election, that entity, I don't know if you could classify that as America, but whether it's America or the deep state, it seems to be they could possibly be the new Babylon. That's what I was thinking.
This one's for you, Anthony.
Maybe. All right.
Somebody get him a
I'm
Red Bull.
awake. I'm here.
No. We do not need Anthony with energy drinks.
No.
Thank you.
I won't go to sleep
We
tonight.
appreciate it.
So what are your because Rob, you were saying you read Antichrist and Apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
And
Who wrote that? Who wrote that book? Is that Marshall's book?
Marshall's
Okay.
It's Marshall.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so he makes a very good case that the whore of Babylon is Jerusalem. Both was and is Jerusalem.
I would disagree with that.
But the Apocalypse literally says it's where Christ was crucified.
So Rome is the new Babylon when John is writing in the Apocalypse, right?
Yes.
Rome is the new Babylon. So and in that time, Israel is the whore because Israel is flirting with the nations, right? So when I talked to Anthony Stein about this, and he said, I think America is the new Babylon, and I think the ape of the church is the whore. And it's if you kind of see it typologically, if Israel in the first century was the whore, it's not to say the church, it's not the Catholic Church, it's whatever this aping thing is. It seems to, especially during COVID, it seemed like that. It seemed like the church was playing around and messing with this new system and enforcing its dictates. It seems like it's playing around some stuff with the UN and pushing the 2030 agenda and things like that. Now, I don't know, like, you guys have to understand, I'm a high school dropout and I don't want to say anything heretical. Rob, you think it's still Israel, right? Like, what is today?
I'm not going to say the nation state of Israel, because who knows that will exist at the time of the apocalypse. Like, to say America is Babylon is to say that you think America is going to exist at the time of the apocalypse. I don't know if it
specifically has to be the country of America, like you're saying, but this entity that seems to be controlling things behind the scenes seems like it's going to have a more global, right? It has to do with the UN and this.
And what if that entity is Jerusalem?
Yeah, I think you both could actually, if you were to zoom out a bit, you'll get a little bit closer to what the manuals say. So most of the manuals, what's important to recognize is that technically there's not really a right or wrong answer that we know of at the moment, right? So people in the chat, one thing that's important to know is that this is an area of theology that has not been like even spoken about on the context of the magisterium saying yay or nay about.
And if anything, we're kind of warned almost to like be careful speculating on this stuff.
Yeah, like all we do know, we do know certain things. Like we do know there will be an apostasy from the faith. We do know there will be an antichrist. We do know that all of the Amish will be saved, right? We do know those things, but we don't know the specifics. But we got you, bro. We got you. But I actually think Augustine is generally where a lot of the manuals fall. And I think that it's a better reading. Augustine says in his book, The City of God, that the whore of Babylon is the city of the world. It is, basically this kind of antichrist sentiment that permeates throughout all of the world. And perhaps it manifests itself more strongly, in the early church, in the pagan Rome, perhaps French Revolution, perhaps you could say the state of Israel, perhaps you could say elements of the US government, of the UN. I think that's more likely. That makes more sense because I don't think it's going to be limited to a physical place. I think it's going to be all-encompassing around the world because that's kind of the goal of the Antichrist, is to get everyone into a one-world government of some form or fashion. And I think that can most easily take place with kind of a UN-like system as opposed to a physical location primarily.
Yeah. And to Rob's point, it definitely could have the Amish working diligently behind the scenes in that system.
And I mean, so I know, Nick, your kind of thesis is that it's most likely Rome in some sense, right?
I wonder about that, and I kind of lean toward that just because before, and kind of gets into some spicy territory, but in the 50s, there was a lot of Catholic theologians in Rome who were kind of looking around at the, if you will, the pillars of the church slowly rotting. And they were asking the question, is pagan Rome going to rise up and kind of subdue the Catholic Church? And a lot of them would go and they would look at the fathers and they would say, yes, like there is a good potential of a kind of pagan Rome coming up. Now, sedes will often take some of these statements, like Sylvester Berry's dogmatics on the end times, and they'll say, well, there you go, right? The whole conciliar system, that's the whore of Babylon. That's pagan Rome rising up, but it's a spiritual entity in the church. Okay, you can make that argument. I still think that you have way more issues with that system. But I do think that there is a reality, kind of what Enoch talked about in our last show, where he talked about the reality of the world following the church, in the sense that when the church is not doing its mission, or when it's being lax, then you will have this kind of antichrist spirit in the world itself, at least have a license to go. And so I kind of lean toward there's something connected with Rome there. I don't know what it is. But
okay, now do you think there's anything being? Do you think there's any kind of prophecy being fulfilled in the people of the Old Covenant coming back into the land of Israel? Like, do you think there's anything prophetic being fulfilled there where, okay, now they're back in this area. There's the potential for them trying to attempt to build a temple. There's also during this time, right when this is happening, you have the council being called. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of nefarious things going on in the council. You have Pope Paul VI laying down the papal tiara, right? Almost that the catacomb happened like this. The papacy itself is just laying down its authority. Yeah. You have all these things happening there. So when we talked to Joshua Charles about this, he was talking about the body of Christ and the body of the devil, and the body of the devil is basically the world, but that encompasses inside the church as well. So you have people who are Catholic in name, but actually do the bidding of the devil, even though they're baptized Catholics and they even claim to be Catholic, but they're clearly not. Like, I mean, you look at someone like Joe Biden, right on its face, this is a guy who goes and receives communion, but he's clearly not Catholic, right? Now, this sentiment seems to be taking hold in a larger and larger swath of the Catholic faith, of the Catholic Church, where it seems like that body of the devil is almost completely encompassing with, if you look at it as a Venn diagram, it seems like that is encompassing much of the church right now.
Yeah, 1,000%, my guys. When you look at the reality of the body of the devil, I think it's a good analogy and it's true. What I'm curious about, to answer your initial question about, does the Amish returning to the land of Israel have anything to do with this? I think to a degree. I don't think in the context, obviously, that the dispensationalists believe, where they're like, okay,
no, not at all like that. Of course,
yeah.
No.
I think though there has to be a discussion about what is the third temple, because you see in the book of 2 Thessalonians, as well as in the book of the Apocalypse, that the Antichrist goes into the temple, whatever that is, and proclaims himself to be God. Now, we do know from Catholic theology that the Antichrist is a real person, right? It's not a kind of a symbolic thing. There is true symbolism there, but it is going to be a person. But what is that temple? Is it the temple of Ezekiel that's outlined in the latter chapters of Ezekiel, where it's literally giving you exact specifications on a temple design? I mean, it's down to the T. Or is it, some type of person going inside of the church and proclaiming himself as God?
Okay, so that's what, I mean, if you're looking at it typologically, like the church is the new Israel. The church is the temple, right? It's not the temple like it was, because it's not a physical building anymore. It's wherever mass is celebrated, that's where God is present. But I don't want to get in trouble for saying that, but couldn't it be that? Because, okay, so dogmatically, do we have to believe the papacy? The papacy has to endure to the end, right?
Yes, that's a dogma of Vatican I.
The papacy must endure to the end. So,
Yes.
and we also don't believe the Pope can ever be the Antichrist.
And we don't believe the Pope can be the Antichrist. However, the manualists do say that this is where the sedes sometimes will use these quotes. There's a lot of manuals which do say in ecclesiology that the Antichrist will be a Pope-like figure who will rise up and basically point the finger at the true Pope and say, "You're this false pretender, get out of my way." They do say that. I mean, you can't get around that fact. That's what a lot of theologians speculate. Now, again, this is on the level of theological opinion. So you can kind of take it or leave it. So don't take that to the bank. But that is an interesting thing to think about.
What about the false prophet that precedes the Antichrist?
That's the thing. A lot of theologians will question, is the false prophet the same person as the Antichrist? Because again, how little are we going to read this text? I mean, is it truly two separate individuals, or is it one and the same? There's some theologians that say one and the same. Some people say that's not. I think, though, if it is going to be different, the question is, what would that false prophet be like? In our day, if that was to take place, it would have to be some type of individual who has insane charisma, insane type of communication skills. So you could think of some, politician who's just exceedingly loved universally, right? I'm not talking about universally loved in his group, but universally. And then he's going to be showing this guy is the Antichrist. He's gonna proclaim him as Christ, because the Antichrist is going to be performing false miracles. And that's the and so you kind of had foreshockers with this, with some of the charismatic nonsense, to be honest. A lot of the charismatic stuff is literally just kind of tomfoolery that you can slow a video down and you can figure out where the deception is. But then there's some stuff where you have to question, like, what the heck's going on? Like a lot of the magicians, like, what is going on with some of these insane magic shows? It's interesting just to think about.
What do you guys think of Apocalypse 11, where it says that the great city, Babylon, or the great city, which is called spiritually Sodom and Egypt, where their Lord was also crucified?
Yeah, it's a good question.
To me, that seems pretty specific.
Real quick, this is funny. Yeah, you're so right. Trump is the Antichrist because it does say that he receives a wound in the head and he survives. So you're right. Trump is the Antichrist. Thank you, Blue Anon.
Wait, Rob, that's an 11?
Apocalypse 11:8.
Yeah, no, so read it again, Rob. Read it again, Rob.
All right. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city, which is allegorically called Sodom and Egypt, where their Lord was crucified.
Exactly. So there's three things you can pick up from there. So number one, it's talking about the two witnesses. Theologians debate, but most of them say, isn't it, it's Elias, and what's the other one, Rob? Is it Enoch, I think? It's Elias and Enoch. I've seen some say
or is Elias and Lisa?
Yeah, I will say Elias for sure, because he's the one I do remember. Elias and the other one. I think the other one is Enoch. It might be Moses, but I think it's Enoch. Anyway, so they are going to go around in the world and they are going to be preaching the truth of the gospel. They're going to get killed for it. Their bodies are going to lay in the streets. That, notice it says, that is spiritually like, or allegorically like, Sodom and Egypt. Okay, Sodom we understand, right? Sodom and Gomorrah, Genesis 19, the rainbow world, plus a bunch of other bad stuff. Egypt, every time in the Old Testament it's used, it's referring to basically the world that St. John uses in his epistle, the world, spiritual wickedness. You could even think of sorcery and magic, etc. All kinds of bad stuff. So they're going to be lying dead in a city that is spiritually like Sodom and Egypt, where their Lord was crucified. So is that Jerusalem? Okay, well, if it was Jerusalem, it could line up pretty well with the theory of the temple having to be rebuilt there, because, again, for me, that is one of the big question marks. Like, why does Ezekiel get into such fine detail about the dimensions of the temple? I mean, it's not saying there will be a third temple built. It's like, here's how big you build the temple. Here's how big you big the door. Here's how big you big, the windows, etc. It's very detailed. So it could be that Jerusalem becomes such a pit of Sodom that, that's the result. It becomes because, while Jerusalem has a lot of rod, a lot of Jerusalem still has a lot of holiness, because there's the Holy Sepulchre. It's still there, the place where our Lord died, the place where our Lord was buried. There's still, it's not a holy city, but there's still so much. It is still the holiest place, because of the reality of Christ being and dying there, which is interesting.
can always count on our audience to be kind. Tell me I look chunky.
Bro, I've been hey, we appreciate it. Whoops, my bad. Chris Forlone. We appreciate it, bro.
I've just been thinking things are about to start heating up, man. Like things are going to start getting pretty intense. Even I heard Tucker's talking to one of his neighbors up in Maine, and they were talking about prepping, and it's like, okay, I got some MREs and stuff, and it's like, yeah, that'll get me through like 2 weeks, but I don't know, man. It's not going to get us through the Great Depression, right? And I feel like there's a Great Depression on its way, and I don't know. I want to get out of New York so bad.
We got a foreshock Monday and Friday. I mean, we got a foreshock. I mean, there is going to be clearly a recession coming. The question is just when and how bad is it going to be? And we got a foreshock with the economy dipping down as bad as it did this last Monday. I mean, the Dow falling literally 1,000 points. I mean, it was really bad. I think they said it was the worst day since 1987. It was really bad. By
so true.
Oh, wait a minute. There's one thing I actually do have to. All right, so I'm going to the Catholic Identity Conference.
That's fine.
And I'm not going to speak there. I'm just going there, and it cost $400 for the ticket, $300 for the plane trip, and then $300 for a hotel room for one night. I'm staying with Kyle Whittington the other night. Like, we're gonna have to do a fundraiser for this thing. $1,000.
Kind of surprised Kyle is going to that. Not gonna lie, kind of surprised he's going to that.
I am too, but he bought a ticket to go for the whole weekend, and he offered for me to stay with him. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm flying in Friday night. I'll stay with you Friday night, and then Saturday I'll get a hotel room because I want to do a stream with the Catholic Unscripted guys. Like, I want to get Gavin, Mark, and Catherine on, and I want to.
Mark is basically you
in England,
but English.
Yeah. I love him.
Kyle probably went to the Trad Recovery Conference and realized there's a lot of empty chairs. So you want to go to a better conference?
Well, I think CIC is just 45 minutes from his house.
It is. It's
that
close.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. May as well stop in. So,
yeah, the idea of going to that is the networking, right? So the last time I went to the Cancel Priest Conference, I met a bunch of people that I was unable to.
Mark, I'm sorry.
He's great. I love that guy. But it's the idea is I'm hoping to go meet a bunch of people that I don't know in this world because we got so many good interviews. Like I met Michael Hitchborn there. Like you think about the shows we did with Hitchborn, like those were great shows. Shouldn't say
get him on again.
About other podcasters. Yeah, you shouldn't say there. Anybody's like me. Yeah, I don't know. You guys should throw us some topics tonight. Oh boy.
ARS.
We got $3,000.
That's ARS. 30 cents, guys.
Hey, let's go. Which YouTube gets docked 30% of that. So we appreciate it.
All right. Why don't you guys give us some topics tonight? Because this is one of those shows.
Bro, I'll give you a topic right now that's been on my mind.
You're in control tonight. You take the show away.
Let's talk about the UK. I mean,
definitely. I think I even brought stories in on that.
What's funny is the clip we put up of what we talked about last week on it has less than 1,000 views. And here I thought that clip was going to kill.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just YouTube. Y'all definitely share this video. And biggest thing you guys can do, honestly, is comment. Even if it's just you go in there and be that guy who just comments first, just because it helps with the algorithm. Because during election seasons, YouTube likes to be mom and dad and squash down on things.
It probably didn't help. I said Anglos rise up in the thumbnail.
Yeah, I don't think most people even got. I think it was the thumbnail. You might have to play with that. The other thing is we have to do like reaction faces, right?
Yeah, I will never do that.
so Anthony sends me anyone on Twitter Thursday sent out a tweet last week in support of was it Gavin Ortland?
Yeah, I think so.
So Gavin Ortland had a thumbnail that people were criticizing because it's got this big image of Gavin's face on it. And Thursday, from Pint said you might hate it, but he's right. Like anyone who makes thumbnails knows you need a very expressive face in the thumbnail for people's eyes, basically, to track in on.
So now, if you saw tonight's thumbnail, Rob, somebody pointed it out. They said, "Is that the guy's face from Get Out?" So Rob just went and found a guy acting shocked.
I just searched shocked meme.
Yeah,
Because that was the image I had in my head, and sure enough, that was the first one that popped up.
So I always look, I've had conversations with people behind the scenes about some of the other guys doing videos like Trent Horn and Michael Lofton, right? And not to knock Trent or anything, but
definitely to knock Michael Lofton.
Right. I'll knock Lofton, but not Trent. But some of their thumbnails, it's like,
dude, it gets so bad.
like they do things like that. It's like, and it's so cringe, and I'm just like, so Rob sends me a text, and he's like,
"Well, no, hold on. You sent me that clip from Thursday, and you're like, just keep in mind,
food
I'm
for
like,
thought for thumbnails."
I'm like, dude, I know it's just most of our topics don't lend itself to that. You know, like if we're talking about Francis, I'll throw up a picture of Francis's face right there.
Yeah.
It's not to make fun of Francis; it's to get you to click on the thumbnail.
What we need,
but when we're talking about other things, it doesn't really work. And I don't have any real pictures of Anthony because the only pictures of him are on his wife's Facebook, and he gets mad every time I take one.
I made her block you. Is she still, I told her, I'm like, I want you to block Rob.
Anthony, just take like 20 selfies of you with the shocked face, and then we'll use that.
So as Anthony has told everyone a billion times on the show, his wife is a photographer.
Yeah.
And I said, what would be really helpful, Anthony? Have your wife take professional headshots of you making different faces. And he just says, no, never.
Yeah, dude. First off, I can't bring myself to do it. Right. And to me, guys taking selfies is just
this would be your wife taking professional.
I understand. But it's still pictures of just me. Like I can't look at pictures of just
you
me.
You are a homosexual if you take photos like that.
I agree.
You are
look,
1000%
I understand women doing it because they can't help themselves. Like women genuinely just can't help but take pictures of themselves. I don't know.
Yeah, it's because they're vain. That's why.
I didn't say it. Nick said it. But
so are you saying we're gonna have to have? Never mind.
Yeah, that's what it would be to me. It would just be me soy jacking,
Let's talk about the UK. The UK is interesting right now. What's going on over there?
Okay, so
so our whole show is not us talking about thumbnails.
Okay, yeah. All right, so so Elon Musk says civil war is coming to the UK. The British beg to differ. No one who was even a passing familiarity. This is from NBC News, so this is going to be so heavily biased against Elon Musk here. No one who even has a passing familiarity with the country would embarrass themselves by making such an absurd prediction, one academic told NBC News. The world's richest man, tech billionaire Elon Musk, has doubled down on comments that the UK is on the verge of civil war. Copy editor, guys. On the verge of civil war after more than a week of right-wing riots. It's virtually impossible to find anyone in Great Britain who agrees with him. This is nuts.
Apparently, apparently hating children being stabbed is right-wing these days.
But anybody who has seen the videos coming out, especially the way they're handling it, right? Telling people, they're at the point now where they're saying, if you retweet a video of the violence in the UK, they will come to your house and arrest you.
They've arrested like at least 9 people just for comments they've made on social media.
Musk, who owns X and is known for picking fights online and retweeting far-right dude, this is I don't think people realize how effective propaganda is, because the average person reads this and they don't see even the way they're framing this whole thing.
It's such
far-right post was responding on his platform to a video allegedly showing rioters clashing with British police after days of far-right violence, even every bit of the language, in several towns and cities across the country. Tim Bale, a politics professor at England's Queen Mary University, described such talk as completely and utterly ridiculous.
There's your experts line they're throwing in.
Don't they realize no one cares about what academics say anymore?
Not really.
I've seen so many of these articles where they frame it like this, where it's, and the news in the UK is so bad. If it wasn't for Twitter, I don't think any of us would actually know what's happening over there.
I agree. I
Yeah.
actually agree. But if you guys remember during the lockdowns, the UK, they were throwing people in jail for, alternative science and stuff. We got to remember that the UK is, of course, in our history, like the classic old version of the authoritarian world. I mean, that's all that it is. I'm not saying this is a free speech absolutist as a Catholic. I'm just saying in the sense that if people literally want to go out and protest, hey, we had these 3 girls who were, let's just say, removed from society, trying to be friendly with YouTube's algorithm. But let's just say, right, they passed away because of a certain migrant that decided to go insane. Like, how are these individuals far right? It's complete framing. And they didn't do this, of course, when it came to the 2020 riots over here. Of course, we remember the classic fiery but mostly peaceful protest.
Oh yeah,
it's
Yeah,
just propaganda.
It was my governor that did all that.
Yeah, exactly. We should talk about that tonight because it's like
vice president candidate.
Yeah, it's a complete wall-to-wall propaganda, and it's the same
Walls
stuff
to
they're doing.
walls.
It is. It's nothing but propaganda, and this is what infuriates me so much. These individuals will allow migrants to come into our countries and murder our children. The guy just walked into a dance class and started knifing kids up, doing other things that I won't say because I know I'll definitely get in trouble. Doing that type of stuff, and they will protect that community. They will, like, you can't even go out. You can't even make
You
a
see,
tweet.
you see the UK police getting on TV, starting off saying "Assalamu alaikum,"
I know.
"Assalamu alaikum," whatever the hell they say, and they're addressing the Muslim community who is terrified right now. There is absolutely, oh yeah, it's unalived. We have to say
Unalive.
yeah.
Thank you. I'm learning myself.
Forcefully unalive.
The way they are handling the propaganda around this is so absurd. It's terrifying to think, like, what happens when that starts happening here? Because you see that I think the only reason we have even a shot is because of alternative media at this point.
Yes. Yeah. I forget who it was that said it the other day, but someone said this election in the United States is going to come down to those who watch the mainstream media versus those who watch alternative media. Because those of us who watch alternative media are like, this chick, she's a complete psychopath. They've astroturfed her all the way into office. They completely offed their original candidate. They've thrown her in there with no ballots being voted on. She picks a far left open socialist who, by the way, has, signed into legislation. Rob, you should know more about this than me, but signed into legislation stuff that protects the, let's just say, gentlemen who like younger ladies, children type of a community. And what are we told? What are we told? Oh, that's just far right propaganda.
Wait, some people are saying Vance isn't going to be the VP. You guys think that Trump is going to switch him out? I don't think so.
No, that's a leftist propaganda that was around like a week ago.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even people on the conservative side are falling for this stuff. They're very good at it, man. They get a couple of people, this stupid couch story with JD Vance, everything. They just keep getting this information out to us to make us think that Trump is second guessing his VP pick. It's crazy how good they are at propaganda.
Guys, honestly, like, if it was not Donald Trump right now at the head of our party, we would be freaking screwed. I mean, because the thing is that he's been attacked so much that he has zero trust for them, and so he's going for it. The issue is that a lot of Republicans, lay Republicans, we think that the left and us are in a conversation. And so we're like, they wouldn't lie to us, would they? They wouldn't do nefarious things, would they? Because we wouldn't do that to them. We need to play by the rules. No, they will do that stuff to you. They've been lying to you for years.
We live in two completely different realities, right? So we are able to actually see what's happening. We pay attention to the actual circumstances that are going on, and we make decisions based on that. They get fed a completely false set of facts, believe it without question. Don't ever look into anything and it's just meant to undo the reality that we all live in. Everything they believe is just platitudes.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with reality. It's just platitudes, even from everything from immigration. The immigration thing that we talked about the other night, it's just so insane that these people don't see they are opening our borders to another culture that is going to come in, and they'll be the first ones that get taken out, not us.
Yeah. No, I agree. I was telling one of my friends today. So as I've been saying for weeks now, myself and a large group of guys are going up to the Rust Belt states to do campaign work for President Trump when it gets closer to election time. And we're trying to get other guys to join us, right, to get this as big as we can. But we'll still have people, it's particularly trad Catholics, and I'm myself included, but they'll just say, there's still right now in the face of an open socialist who is insanely pro-abortion, insanely pro-rainbow stuff, they're still complaining, and they're saying, essentially, why wasn't the RNC the Second Council of Trent? And I'm like, well, because we're in America and it's a secular party.
Yeah.
There's some individuals who, again, are just so stuck in their wedge issues, so stuck in their single issue voter mentality that you can't get anywhere outside of it. So neither DJT, Donald J. Trump, or the SSPX is ideal in a normal world, but they're exactly what we need in the world we are in. That is the truth, my man. Absolutely.
I've been going back and listening to Michael Davies' talks about the council because Patrick Coffin wants to come on and wants to do an entire show on the Second Vatican Council. So he's reading books on it and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'll have time to read, but I've been listening to Michael Davies' talks, just going through all this stuff. And it really is wild what happened during that council. And you think about what Lefebvre was up against. And I think people today, I don't care what your position is on the society, if you don't see the traditional movement today as having its roots in what Lefebvre did, you're just in denial at this point. Like the Latin Mass that we have today, your local diocesan parish, wherever you attend it, it's because Lefebvre stood up and said, no, I'm not going along with this.
Yeah, 1000%. I mean, to all of the Groyper Twitter guys out there, here's just one simple piece of information. Why did the theologian Congar, right, who was a Dominican, get tasked by John the 23rd to go and ask the Amish communities in New York and in parts of Germany, in France, and England, etc., what kind of counsel they wanted the Catholic Church to give them? Because that's open public history. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's completely out there. But we're just told that the council was just this most glorious, amazing, epic thing. Whenever I was in my undergrad, my first year, I had a first-year introduction to theology, right? I had my scholastic professors, and then I had my kind of like run-of-the-mill, I have to take these classes. And in those run-of-the-mill classes, man, those older priests, clearly they were ordained in like, 75 or something. They were just like, oh, the Second Vatican. It was just so amazing. And man, we just triumphant over all of the fascism in the church and all of the and all of the clericalism and authoritarianism. And we just opened it up for the world. And I'm sitting there watching this guy in normal clothes and Crocs as a priest telling me how amazing everything is. And I look him straight in the eye and I just say, I'm glad you're going to be out of a job soon, Father. I'm glad you're going to be out of a job soon.
Part of the reason I want to go to the conference is to meet Michael Matt and to like this is part of the reason I want to go. So it's that's the hope. The hope is I'm going there as a work trip. The hope is I'm going to get to meet people that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to meet, and hopefully we'll be able to get some of those people on the show. What do you make of Elon
Musk in general?
Yeah, just in general. You see him as a villain or a good guy? What do you think?
I think he's coming around.
I personally think that he's more so a force for good in the world than bad. Not just from what he did with Twitter, but also from, I would say, agreeing with Rob, a lot of the issues that he's coming around on. Some people, again, they want people to be purists from the gate, and that's just not realistic for the most part. I think that he is overall a force for good. Michael Davies was a doctor of the church.
Real quick, guys, if you're donating this for that trip, don't do that on Super Chat. Rob will set something separate up, because anything we get in Super Chats when we have Nick on, we split with Nick. We do it like that. So we're going to
go to your Twitter tip jar.
You can go to my Twitter tip jar. I have Venmo or Cash App on there if you guys want to help me pay for that trip. I will make it worth everybody's while. I will get guests on this show. I'll do interviews from that conference. But that would be ideal, is because plus I don't have to give YouTube 30% of it and stuff. Please continue to Super Chat. I'm just telling you, if that's what you're sending it here for, that's not what that's going to go towards. That's just going to go towards show costs and things like that. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Nick. So you think he's coming around, Rob? And Nick, you think he's a force for good in general?
Overall, yeah, and I agree with Rob. I think he's coming around on a lot of issues. And my whole point is that typically when I see people judge him, they judge him from three perspectives. One, the hyperbolic people who think that he is the Antichrist. And I'm like, that's not true.
He's
Two,
not even Amish.
yeah, I'm just like, again, these people, I sometimes wonder like how much dope they're buying on the weekends. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Two, the people who criticize him more professionally. So they'll be like, yeah, I don't like this particular idea about his intellectual system. That's cool and fine. And then the third individuals who I think are at least more charitable, and they'll just say, okay, yeah, he's not a purist on things. He's a guy. He's a business guy who's developing his own thoughts.
I could say this. He has completely changed the conversation. He's completely changed what we're allowed to talk about. I think it's even put pressure on other social media companies on what they allow. Because when you see what's allowed on Twitter and then you get banned for that very thing, and they used to have a monopoly on that stuff. So one social media app would ban somebody, and then it would be like tick, 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 like dominoes, and you just get banned off every single thing. Now that people are allowed on Twitter, and I don't worry about getting suspended on Twitter anymore. That used to be like, every time I would tweet, I would worry, am I going too far with this? And I don't worry about that anymore.
What's funny is with your engagement farming, you should maybe be worried because he has said he will ban that.
No, so that's not what he meant by that, though.
I know.
I looked into that. No, because I looked into that because when you said that the other day, I was like, oh, wait, is that actually a thing? What he's talking about is AI bots. So somebody tweeting and having bots attack that tweet in order to engagement farm through artificial intelligence or bots or things like that. So that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about if somebody puts out a good tweet or a bait tweet that generates a conversation.
I hire 1,000 people from the subcontinent to reply to your tweets, that might get you banned.
That'll get me banned. Yeah, that'll get me banned. Something like that.
All right, you guys know what to do then.
I'll just pull a Kyle Whittington and hire a bunch of Indians to do it.
I am a rage baiter on Twitter. Forget it. Look, did you see Kale's tweet?
People are saying that
last time I saw it was like 850,000 views or
He's at
something.
3 million now.
What does it say?
He's just said something about baseball hats.
If you wear baseball hats, you're basically a man child or something like that.
Yeah, he was like, dude, it was the stupidest tweet. Here's the thing with Twitter. It's so strange. Like, okay, so I've realized with the algorithm, if you catch something where it just enough people respond immediately, like as soon as you post it, it'll catch a wave and it'll just get sent all over the places it normally doesn't. You could throw 100 tweets out there and they don't get bit, but if one catches the right way,
if you piss off enough people right away,
and it'll just get sent out. Jeff, who watches our show, JMT, he's very good, dude. He is, and all he does is he's way more measured than I am. So he basically just posts memes, but he times it. He doesn't do one after another. He'll do one tweet an hour with a meme, but it's a very Catholic content. And dude, me and him talk paychecks. He does good, dude. Like, way better.
That's another thing. If you tweet too much, the algorithm just ignores you.
Yeah. Like I had a day where I had 1 million impressions, and the next day it's like 100,000. You know, you have to really. I'm too impatient because I'll have free time at work and I'll just fire off 5 tweets while I have free time, and then I don't go on for another half hour. I gotta figure out the science of it. Still working it out.
We should have Kale on because I think it would be a really interesting conversation, like a trad Zoomer, and then a guy who's not, completely. What'd you say?
We had Kale on with you.
Yeah, no, but we didn't have like a full conversation. It was pretty short. He like jumped in and he surprised me with his Paul VI comment. That's burned into my memory.
Well, that's the interesting thing about Coffin also with Patrick, because watching Patrick go from the Catholic Answers guy to reaching out to me because he wants to talk about Vatican II is the most interesting thing in the world to me.
So did he just message you and be like, yo, you want to talk about Vatican II?
Yeah. He's like, look, I'm studying Vatican II right now. I cannot believe some of it, which this is kind of the stuff I was going through in like 2017, 2018. And I forgot a lot of it.
Welcome, brother.
Yeah.
We will be seeing Patrick Coffin eventually. I predict it now. He will say, Marcel Lefebvre was right.
Well, he's already has a very positive view of Lefebvre, but he still thinks the society is in schism. So I'm like, look, because when he said that to me, I said, look, my friend Nick comes on pretty much every episode now. He goes to the society, but the kid's brilliant and he'll have a ton of insight to add. I said, if we could stay off the society topic, I think it'll be a great show. He goes, well, I can't stay off the society topic. He said,
Nicholas, you are in schism.
But I mean, if you're cool with just disagreeing with him on it, and I would love to have you on it.
It would be cool, because I think I would just kind of show the ridiculousness of the system, because it's like this last a day ago I put up on my community page on my show this whole list of why we as Catholics have to dogmatically believe specifically that the people in hell receive the pain of sins, right? Physical pain. That's a dogma of our faith.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was giving the quote from Fernandez, one from Pope Francis, and then Bishop Barron talking about kind of the dare we hope. And I was saying, this stuff doesn't really make sense in light of this dogma. And, the most intelligent, of course, arguments that you get back from people are, well, you're a Protestant because you criticize Pope Francis. And I was like, oh, I'm a Protestant. Well, that's great, because Pope Francis says to Lutherans, and I gave him the quote in the footnote, that Protestants are part of the mystical body of Christ.
Yeah.
So I'm in the church. Let's go. So what does schism even mean anymore? That's the problem. You take their system to its logical conclusion.
I'll tell you, I would love to have you on those episodes, and if they come up, just defend your position. I mean,
yeah, that'd be cool. I wouldn't mind that.
I want you there because I think you have a ton of insight to offer, and I don't want to not have you on because Patrick's coming on. So it'll just be if Patrick wants to go that route, that's his choice. That's all, and then we could get into the the mechanics of it if we have to. Me and Rob really don't like the society debate.
There's nothing more boring than
that. I just don't like the bad blood it causes between guys that I consider Catholic and I love. Like I don't know. I don't like seeing. I see how like people are just so hardlined in their positions that I'm just like I don't care.
It's one of those issues that it's like you just have to at certain point move past the talking points, examine the issue for yourself, like according to all of the principles, and then make a decision, and then you just stick with it. Because after a certain point, just like answering the same old thing, are they in schism? Are they excommunicated? Like over and over again, it's just like, all right.
Brandon's asking, why does he think that? I mean, you'll have to hear
from not Brandon,
but no. Brandon said, why does Coffin believe that? You'll have to, wait and hear.
You'll have to hear why. My opinion on. So I think you're probably talking about when Bishop Williamson was removed from being in leadership of the SSPX. He went and consecrated, I think it was like 2 or 3 other bishops, if memory serves, for the resistance. Do I think that the excommunication was valid? I don't know that, to be honest, but I will say there is good arguments for and against. So the good arguments against, because there's a lot of Williamson fans in here, is that in the time in which we live in, goodness gracious, it's like the people who are being elevated up to the position of the bishopric are pretty insane. I mean, just again, the fact that we have the head of the DDF saying, I know all people will be saved, is just wild to me. I think that, maybe when you go into the spirit of it, there's a good argument of saying Williamson thought it was absolutely necessary because of a grave cause. I think that you could make that case for him. And if that is the case, I think he would be saved from an excommunication. On the other hand, one could obviously make the argument that there wasn't a necessity, etc. And so therefore it wouldn't give him an out. And I think it comes down to your opinion.
Okay. Real quick. We came up with a good tier system for locals. So, this is what I was spitballing around.
We came up with a tier system.
I thought it up. I thought this might be something you guys would be interested in. If we do a $10 tier, we're going to give, once we go to locals, which I don't know if we're even going to go there tonight, we'll see. But once we do go over to locals, what we're going to do is $10 tier, you get to come on, like we'll send the link to locals, $10 members will get to come on as if they're doing a call-in. Like, so when we're on locals, they'll actually be able to come on. They could show their face or not. That's up to them. They could just come on, add something to the conversation, and then dip out. And the $20 tier, anybody that gets in that $20 tier, you get to join us for an entire show. And we'll pick one person for the local show. Like you'll be able to join us for the local segment. And we'll pick one person each week in that $20 tier, and we'll say, okay, it's your turn. You want to come on? Just come and hang with us for the episode. We'll wait until it works with everybody's schedule. But if you guys ever want to sit in and just hang for conversation, that would be the way to do it.
This I'd be interested in watching, not gonna lie. that would be that'd be funny.
Let's see. So if I pay $10, I have to add something to the show. Sounds like too much work. We're just trying to give you guys an excuse to throw $10 away. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Italian con man we got here. I mean, if people want, I can take their theology questions if you want.
I mean, so the problem with merch is that for like even an extra $5 a month, at $60 a year, you get a $20 t-shirt. Like that just there's gotta be something better than that, right?
Yeah, go buy a t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Go buy a t-shirt.
Everyone go unsubscribe from their locals account and donate to Act Red. This is so we can get Donald Trump over the edge.
Oh, no. I will kick you off.
I can add myself back to the stream.
I would love to get a Molly comment. I reached out to Molly's husband and asked him if he would come on to discuss end of life issues and like organ donation and brain death.
Oh yeah.
But he said with his line of work, he's not able to. He has to remain private. So,
I get it.
But I would have loved to get him on. He's so brilliant about that area. It would have been awesome.
What if we send him a voice modulator and just have him do it voice?
do like the Project Veritas interviews.
Oh yeah.
He's just talking like he just kidnapped someone the whole time.
Man. If you guys want, throw in your theology questions and
throw in the we can hang on YouTube again tonight. This is a slow show. We don't have any like crazy topics.
I think Kennedy did a pretty good rebuttal of that.
Yeah, Kennedy did do a good rebuttal of this. Ultimately, so I will say this particular priest, if you guys don't know, Father Allars, I think he's a member of like the Divine Mercy Order or something like that. He's all into the Divine Mercy stuff. And he basically just made a criticism of the SSPX. I don't think he said they were in schism. I think he said that they're materially in schism or something to that effect. Short answer to that is no. They hold all of the distinctives necessary to be Catholic. So to be Catholic, it's 4 things. You need to be baptized, participate in the sacramental life of the church, hold everything the church teaches on faith and morals, and then fourthly, recognize the Supreme Pontiff and the bishops in communion with him. They fulfill all of those. They just don't have an official structure of, you guys have these official things designated to you, these official tasks for you, etc. They're Catholic. So,
who's David Torkington?
I don't know.
I like that guy. That older guy. Yeah, I saw him on Tim.
Yeah, that older
Gordon's
guy.
show. Oh man, we probably should get him on. He's really good on prayer. We probably should get him on. Are Protestants Christian?
No.
Yeah.
No. The Pope Pius XII is exceedingly clear about this. His most famous, people want a whole lecture on this subject, go and watch my video, is the New Ecclesiology Modernist. Pius XII is emphatically clear when he says that we use the term Christian colloquially, but it's a misuse of the term. He says, quote, only a Roman Catholic can be considered Christian. Of course, you can extend that to Eastern Catholics.
They are Christian heretics.
You could say that.
Doesn't mean they're Christian.
Okay, we actually have a show planned. So I have to ask you about this, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
If we do it, because I have them booked for tomorrow, Walmart Thomist, Christian Wagner, but we could switch it to Friday. It's up to you. But if we're free tomorrow, I wanted to do Thomist versus Thomist and have you guys. I want to see my base Zoomer.
You are aware that classical theist is a different person, right?
Yeah. But
okay.
Somebody suggested that, so I obviously Walmart Thomist is not classical theist.
So are you? Here's my question.
You made it sound like it was the same person.
Are you just wanting me to get into is a Pope Francis base debate? Because that thing's so like 3 months
No. I just
ago.
thought. Well, first off, I do like Christian, and I don't know. We could just discuss theology. I don't care.
Yeah,
You want to wait?
theology.
You want to wait till Friday? You want to do it tomorrow? Whatever you want to do.
Either one, I could do tomorrow. That's cool.
Yeah, I'll try and come up with some good topics to discuss. before we go on, so it's not just a show like this where we're like, what are we doing? Like, this is just one of those
I see
shows.
some good comments, some good questions in the comment section. One.
Yeah, why couldn't you sign in?
Oh, I just couldn't find the link for some reason. Then I found it. So I don't know what the deal was.
Nick, can you explain the Theophanies from a Thomist perspective? The EED could explain how the angel of the Lord appears to the Old Testament figures.
That is a really that's a really long question. Short answer of it is that I actually don't know a ton about the Theophanies, but what I do know from a Thomist perspective. So the Thomists, I mean, again, when it comes to certain aspects, so Theophanies, for people who don't know, Theophanies are generally associated with Eastern Catholic thought. And so Thomists don't have a whole lot to really go on. And so the only things that I've ever been really majorly exposed onto are, I forget his name, but he was a Orthodox theologian who translated into Greek a lot of Aquinas's writings. And so I've been exposed to some of the first editions of that. And I remember reading various sections about the Theophanies, but I've not done a full-on study into it. So I couldn't help you there, to be honest.
No, this is not. No, a theophany in the Old Testament would be when like the word of the Lord comes to a prophet, right?
There's some individuals who will claim that. I've seen some other things, but in general, I'm very ignorant on the subject. Like my education is so scant in it. It's it's very scant in it. Real quick, Gideon Lazar would be interesting to have on. Just
he asked me to come on, Gideon. So Gideon, when did he ask me? Let me see. Let me see. Gideon reached out and he said, "Hey, Anthony, I know you've discussed doing a show together in the past. Would you be interested in having me on in September? I'm editing a volume of collected essays from my work, and I'm hoping to find places to plug the book. His book is I Believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. Studies in Theology of Creation." That should be actually interesting.
That would be interesting.
That would be good.
Yeah, I remember he and I thought about doing something together.
For everyone commenting Charles Coulomb, it can be rather difficult to get him on because he's usually in Europe.
Yeah, that's just the timing thing. It's hard to get him on with because I work and Rob works, you know, like we can't like every Catholic YouTuber you guys see out there, this is their full-time job. Like Rob and I are working full-time jobs, and then we have to schedule everything at night. That's why we do an 8 p.m. show.
Yeah.
But we do have to get more guests on. Like we haven't been doing guests lately because we have been having so much fun, the three of us. But when it's good to get guests on because it gives new show topics and new things, and you learn more. Like it's one thing to just talk the three of us, but it's fun to learn new things from people. So I'm going to, if you guys have any guest suggestions, leave them in the comments. I'll see if I can reach out to some people. Some people will start suggesting people I have no shot at getting, but I tried getting JD Vance.
I was going to say, you took a shot at JD Vance today, so
you never know.
Dude, I will be on that show. This is a good question. Why did the apostles see all of Jesus's miracles but left him at the Passion, but later are willing to be martyred? Is it the Holy Spirit? Short answer, well, that's kind of a two-part question. So the latter half, yes, they are willing to be martyred because of the Holy Spirit. Why did they leave him? Because they didn't have the Holy Spirit, and I just went out of focus like hardcore. But yeah, it was through fear. They did not have the Holy Spirit, and it was truly, honestly, the passions that made them frightful.
Coulomb is in California right now. I didn't know that. Yeah,
it's summer, so he might be in the States, but during the school year, he's usually over in Europe teaching.
We're going to pick that series up again. I'm not sure when. We got to see what Father Nick thinks. He's kind of doing his vagabond thing. He's out running around in a camper. So we got to work around his schedule. We'll see.
And we need to figure out a better way to do the clip. So,
yeah, that too.
I'm seeing Father Murr in the chat. Father Murr would be really, really good. I've recommended Father Murr for a while now because of his book, Murder in the 33rd Degree.
Kennedy should be able to put us in touch with him.
Matt
Yeah, for
Fradd
sure.
turned down JD Vance. Is he insane? Matt, homie,
Well, it
bro,
depends when it was.
what? Like, yeah, okay. I'll give you a pass if it was before the VP pick. I'll give you a pass there. But if it was post VP pick, bro, what are you thinking? Like, you've been clearly drinking too many.
It's probably before.
Has to be before. I'll give you a pass there. So,
do you think settings can be saved?
Do I think so? Bro, I mean, I think that unless you're in my particular chapel, you can't be saved. Settings can be saved.
Somebody said Pratt is voting. Pratt is voting for Harris. Confirmed.
Bro. I'm gonna be up in that neck of the woods. I'm gonna be up in that neck of the woods. I wonder why he
turned down JD Vance even before as a VP pick, though. I would have loved to.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, Matt, bro, you can expand. I mean, you could expand that show so much more if you were to get on some, you are a little bit, but get on some more meatier guests, kind of like the priest that no one knows about. It's all right, but get on JD Vance.
So Ripperger is years out, guys. Like, we know people, we've checked, he is booked for 2 or 3 years.
And I also haven't put in I haven't asked. Like, I'm sure. I don't know. We got to see. I hate to put somebody like Father Ripperger on the spot, Do you think there are issues from a Catholic perspective with Skyrim video games and some of the Marvel movies?
Anthony doesn't know what Skyrim is.
I don't, but I do. I have seen every single Marvel movie.
I'm actually really mad that Anthony doesn't know what Skyrim is, because not gonna lie, Skyrim, that's an OG favorite of mine.
I played a lot with that too.
Yeah, you relate with that. Okay, so I would really say intrinsically, in and of themselves, no. There's nothing per se that is intrinsic about them. There is certain things, though, that just, again, with kind of a certain level of natural prudence, you'd have to be taken care of. So, like, magic, superpowers, if you actually start really getting into something like that, okay, stop it, cut it out. Like, that's just not where to go. But that's just normal prudence that you can take with any fantasy genre. So
29
Marvel movies are just gay.
So true, dude. I agree with that.
Oh, actually, no. I listen, the new iteration of Marvel movies are gay. I did enjoy
OG Spider-Man was pretty funny. You got all the old memes from
with
OG
Tobey
Spider-Man.
Maguire.
Yeah, that was the classic, dude.
That
was Sony. That wasn't even Marvel.
That's true. My bad. Marvel.
I liked Civil War. I liked the first Avengers and the second. I liked
the
all
only
the
Civil
Avengers
War
movies.
that's interesting is the one that's above my head with Robert E. Lee and General Grant. That's the only interesting Civil War out there.
No, I just
Gods in general in Gettysburg.
Literally Gettysburg, my
Best
top
movie.
favorite film.
This one I'm going to get. I will get Kevin James on this show.
Yeah, hey, what happened? What happened at the Kevin James
that's
show?
right. I never even told you guys. I went and saw Kevin James.
No, you told us that.
We will get back
I saw
to your
Kevin James
comment.
Sunday night. So I wanted to go to Mass Sunday morning, hoping to see him, to tell him, hey, I'm going to see you tonight. I wound up going to the diocesan Latin Mass that was closer to my house because it's at 12:30 in the afternoon. It's only 10 minutes away. And I met, Joe Boca went. I saw Joe Boca there. He went to a diocesan Mass this week. Friggin' modernist. So I saw him there. And then I go to the Kevin James show thinking he would do like a meet and greet after. And he really didn't do one. So I didn't get to see him after the show, but I will hopefully see him this Sunday. So I will get him on. Okay, so 29-year-old male was away from the church 13 years. Watching your show got me going to church again and going back to confession. Love hearing those comments. Those are like the best comments. Also, any thoughts of getting Sovereign Bra on the show? So
I don't know who that is, to be honest.
I do.
That's awesome, bro.
Tim Gordon knows him.
Yeah.
And so does Joshua Charles.
Josh Charles knows him. Yeah.
Joshua Charles knows him. So that's a possibility. I will reach out and I'll see if I can get him on.
So based.
I think he's going east, though. He seems like he's going Orthodox. Because he's pretty good friends with Andrew. What's his name?
That guy that's always on like the.
He's always on whatever. Andrew.
Yeah. I know you're talking about. I forget his name, but Andrew something.
He's great, dude. He's an awesome debater.
Yeah, he's pretty. I mean, it's understandable why so many people go east. I mean, literally, you have. I mean, I'm not justifying it. I think there's so many issues with it, but until we get our crap together, we will not see the West reform. And that's just what it's going to be. And you're going to have more than just a ragtag bunch of priest groups. Andrew Wilson, yeah. You're going to have more than just ragtag, priest societies and us YouTubers calling it out. Like, bishops out there, if any of you just happen to watch our video, or if one of you guys wants to send it to your local bishop, please just start shepherding the sheep and clearing up this confusion.
Guys, I cannot be more clear on this. Do not send our show to your bishop.
Bro, I'm sure.
But when Nick's, just even think about what Nick's saying. Okay, so they do have some prominent Orthodox guys out in the mainstream right now, guys like Andrew Wilson, right? Mm-hmm. The aesthetic of Orthodoxy, without the baggage of the sex scandals, without the baggage of Francis, without all that baggage, I'm telling you right now, most people go Orthodox because of Francis. Like, he is the biggest stumbling block for the majority of people. Even the Luigi and Pine Sap debate, I tried watching that. I came in. It's just I couldn't get through. I don't like debates typically, but strangely, I was able to watch Boy's Face debate James White. I was able to Boy's Face debate James White.
Hey, dude, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So that debate wasn't as tedious for me. He was pretty good in that, man. Like, because they were just debating sola scriptura, it's not like, wasn't a bad debate. All right.
Yeah.
Just throwing my 2 cents out there. But yeah, so when you have guys like Andrew Wilson out there, you have even Jay Dyer's got a lot of guys that like him, but Jonathan Peugeot, you have some prominent Orthodox creators without the baggage that we have. It's attractive to people. I understand it. It's why we have to kind of make Catholicism more attractive. You have to really see Catholicism for what it was. It was the church that was given the command to go out and baptize all nations. Now, we're going through some hiccups right now, and things aren't exactly peachy keen, but that doesn't mean we're not the true church, and you don't ever leave here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many reasons to stay, but you're right. I mean, how many people leave the church because of the Filioque versus how many people leave the church because of Pope Francis?
Yeah.
The numbers.
No, they're not leaving because of theological issues. They're leaving because of aesthetic and the council
and moral nonsense. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. And so that's why I'm telling, and I'm not saying this as like a dissident son. I'm just asking the bishops, please father us, like, according to actual Catholic doctrine, because what gets me so mad is it's kind of like we were talking about when the immigration stuff. Like, how do these people in government just allow people to come across the border, whether it's the UK or whether it's here, and just murder its own citizens and then protect it? But in the same way, how do the bishops just allow these priests, or the popes allow these bishops to go on being derelict in their duty, and souls are being murdered because of it, and nothing takes place? And if someone protests against it, civilly they're called far right. Here they're called a schismatic or a dissident or a dissenter, and they're kicked out of the can. I mean, the British riots are the SSPX. That's just what it is.
Yeah, we're just so sick of not having any voices in the church speak out.
Bro, we appreciate it, my man. We appreciate it.
Oh my God.
That's definitely an American dollar symbol, right?
Yes.
No, it is. And that's unbelievable.
If people want me to go off, I'll go off.
The trick to voice of reason, bro, in reality, isn't even the deep voice. Like, anybody could just do a Sylvester Stallone impression. Yeah. But the actual trick to it, Ryan Katsu Rivera does them phenomenally. And you have to repeat what you just said. He does it so good. Like, he'll call me as voice of reason and have full conversations with me. And I'm like, Ryan, shut up. Just talk to me in your normal voice.
Yeah, I had to do that with him acting as you. I had to have a conversation with him pretending to be you.
To be honest, I don't really have an opinion. That's just me being honest. I just don't really have an opinion.
Yeah.
But it's a good question. It's a good question. To be honest, there's just certain things that I just actually don't have an opinion on.
I think QAnon was, I don't know if it was a psyop.
I think it was honestly just low IQ people.
No, but I'm saying the guy that was behind it, I think he just saw like he was able to get people's attention, and
the part that I understand, and I think that there's some validity to, is like the core of the thought is that there was this worldwide sex trafficking ring, right? And that it involved people at high up. Okay, that part, I do believe.
The core of that was the Pizzagate, and that just seems to be like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened, right?
Yeah. My thing is like what I do believe is 1000% that there are people in government, in media, who, because of power, because of money, it opens some type of door in this, if you will, the sinful life of, hey, let me start messing around with children. I mean, it's like the whole stuff we talked about like 2 weeks ago with Mr. Beast, right? The Ava Chris Tyson nonsense.
Okay, so I actually like talking about the difference in the synoptics and John's gospel, because there's so many little subtle differences.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite things is talking about the transfiguration, is that Peter in his letters talks about the transfiguration. Like in Peter's actual letters, he says, I was at the mountain, so where is that?
It's in 2 Peter 1. That's where you're going to be looking for.
2 Peter 1.
2 Peter 1, my man. This is what helps when you were a Protestant growing up. You just remember all these things. And it's going to be at the end of the chapter. It's going to be like verse 19 through the end.
Oh, towards the end?
Yeah, of chapter 1.
And this voice we heard.
Oh, here it is.
Heaven,
okay, so when he received honor and glory from God the Father, and the voice was borne to him. What happened?
Rob and Anthony are fighting again, y'all.
Wait, what did
I was reading for 10 seconds and you just...
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking down and looking for it. Sorry, go ahead. You go.
No, it's you go now.
Oh, brother.
So he says, we heard his voice born from heaven. We were with him on that holy mountain. So I just think it's awesome that you read the story of the transfiguration and then you jump to Peter's letter and he references it again. Why do you think John didn't mention it in his?
Because the theme of John's gospel is from a different perspective. John's gospel, I'll give him an analogy next to St. Matthew because he was a disciple. St. Matthew, his whole thesis is proving Christ is the Messiah to the Jews and therefore to the world. And he's referencing the Old Testament over and over again. The point of St. John's is he's trying to show this is the Word made flesh. This is the divine Logos made flesh, is God made flesh. And because of that, it is love incarnate. And so the whole point of the spiritual life is to grow in charity, is to grow in love. I'll be a little bit vulnerable here, but this will give a little bit of an analogy to my story. The other day, as I was praying, I was meditating over kind of just some of the struggles that I have in my own life, right? Some of the vices I have in my life, some of the things that aren't viceful, but they're just desires that God has placed upon my heart.
Wait, hold on. Everyone's saying they can't see Nick's video.
They can't see my video?
Which is funny because I know I can see it, I'm sure.
Nick
Anthony can see it.
I think they're trolling because he says black is racist. So let me see here. Make sure all these things. I mean, you can see me too, right?
Yeah, we can see you just fine.
It looks perfectly fine to me.
Okay.
Nick switched teams.
Switch teams. I don't know. Someone send us.
And what's funny on the YouTube, in the YouTube control room, I can see your video on that too.
Oh, now I'm back. Okay, I don't know what happened.
Wait, Dang, I want to go back and see it.
I want to go back and rewatch it. Anyway, I don't want to get off my point because it's a good point. Anyway, so I was in prayer and I was thinking about just some of these things that, kind of really troubled me in my life. And never.
That's
and one of the things I honestly felt super convicted of is I've been praying for a wife for years and years and years. and I've been diligent looking, and I'm just, like so many other Gen Z guys, going through so much of a ridiculous culture when it comes to courtship. And I felt the familiar but rare prompting of the Lord say to me in my heart, if you were to spend all the time that you are spending focusing on finding a wife to just try to grow in charity with me, grow in greater charity for me, what would happen to your life? And I was convicted. I was like, you're right. And we can all do this. Focus so much in on our troubles or our desires, right? When the whole point of our life is to grow in greater love of Christ. And that greater love of Christ, to help some of you guys out there, it's not a sentimentalism. It's keeping his commandments, which we can't do without his grace. So it's literally 2 steps. God, I can't keep your commandments. I can't do what is right. I need your help. And then 2, because you help me, I can love you more. And that's the whole point of John's gospel. If you love me, you keep my commandments.
Man, you should have been a street preacher or something, Nick.
I was, bro. I was back in the day.
Those are illegal in Britain now.
Bro, you just go outside and you say Muslim bad, you're in jail.
Yeah, the John's gospel is, it's my favorite gospel to read, and it's one of those where you could read it in an hour or two. It's like a 2-hour read you can get from beginning to end, and it leaves out the institution narrative for the Eucharist, but he gives you John 6.
Yeah.
But he just leaves like these subtle little things in there, and it's such a theologically dense reading where even when you read the first chapter, he says, like, on the first day, and gives you a story, and it says on the next day, gives you a story, then on the next day, and then he says, and on the third day, which leads you to like the 7th day of creation, if you're going back and comparing it to the Genesis story. And on the 7th day of creation, you get the wedding of Cana, because you have the new Adam and the new Eve. Like, there's just so many layers to John's gospel that if you read it yourself, you'll never catch them, but if you read it with a guide, it'll blow your mind.
One of the fraternity priest from Post Falls has an amazing study on John's Gospel and Fidelium.
Yeah.
Just
really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I listened
to
like an 8-part series by Scott Hahn on John's Gospel years ago. Blew me away. Even there's a Bishop Sheen talk on the hour, where every time Jesus says, my hour has not yet come, he's actually referencing the Mass, right? So
yeah.
It's the first time he says it is at the wedding of Cana. He says, woman, what have you to do with me? My hour has not yet come. So when his hour does come, you're going to get wine. Then he says it again to the woman at the well. The hour is coming when we will worship in spirit and truth. So in the Mass, you will worship in spirit and truth, and people will hear the voice of the Son of God. Then he says when Philip, they bring a Greek to him. And he says, my hour has now come. A grain of wheat, unless it dies and falls to the ground, cannot produce grain. And he goes through this whole thing. And it's like, what fruit does a grain of wheat produce? And it's like bread. So when my hour has now come for a grain of wheat to fall to the ground and die, and it becomes bread. So like every time he references the hour, it's actually a reference to what will eventually become the Mass.
Exactly.
And the Mass itself is an hour long.
It depends on, I guess, how quick you're saying it. But really, the Gospel of St. John is so important for so many reasons. It was actually the gospel that was at the center of the modernist attack in the time of Pope St. Pius X, because they wanted to say that St. John's Gospel, and all the Gospels, but really St. John's, because he emphasizes the divinity of Christ, that it was just the amalgamation of the Christian community several hundred years later. And so you do see this in scholarship, like modernists and liberals try to push the date of the writing of John's Gospel back and back and back, 3rd century, 4th century, 5th century, whereas the conservatives are always focusing on, no, this is in the 1st century. Like, I mean, it's so important, because what it does is it shows Christians believe that Christ was God from the get-go. This was not just something they invented later on, like the Muslims try to say.
Yeah, I mean, the Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff literally have to like completely change the translation of John's Gospel to fit their theology.
Sam Shamoon, he's a guest we should have on to talk about Islam.
Anthony has reached out to him.
Yeah, he never responded back.
We should read out
yeah,
again. He'd be cool.
Father Isaac's got a lot going on right now, but yeah, we'll definitely try and get him back on. But I even remember a family member, I won't say who, saying to me, "Oh yeah, the church didn't believe that Jesus was God until like the 300s."
It's
such
poor scholarship.
It's like he thought the Council of Nicaea declaring Christ as divine is when the church decided Christ was divine. It was one of the most frustrating conversations I ever had. I'm like, no, that is not what happened.
Atheist and Muslim apologetics, if I was not even Catholic, I could not accept their systems of thought because it is so insanely bad. We have an entire textual critical system that has outlined that the New Testament is 99.9% the exact same. And even in the 0.1% where there's, variations, it's in no doctrines. It's literally in phraseologies like one text will say, text A, Jesus the Lord, and text B it will say the Lord Jesus, literally minor things along that nature.
Do you know why the Muslim apologetics are so bad?
Why?
Did you see Gavin McGinnes' recent appearance on Joe Rogan?
I have not, no.
That wasn't recent. That was from like 7 years ago.
Was it really that long ago?
Yeah, it's like 7 years ago. But I saw that when he said that live, I saw that.
I might have seen it then if it's an older one.
Where he shows that one, that inbreeding causes a dramatic drop in IQ.
Oh, yeah.
And that 70% of Muslims are married to like their first cousins.
Dude, it's legit. It's legit. I'm gonna be on for like another 10 minutes with you guys. I'm gonna go eat some dinner. But if you guys have any questions in the comments, throw them in there. I'd love to.
Somebody asked a question. Question for Nick: what proofs are there for the primacy of Matthew's gospel being written first?
Oh, that's a great question. So this is covered in
stuff.
Yeah, that's part of it. So this is covered in fundamental theology in the section on sacred scripture, and essentially the proofs are. We see the church fathers, they say that, and they say it's because St. Matthew originally wrote his original manuscript in Hebrew to give to the Jews, which makes sense because, again, the whole point of it is proving Christ is the Messiah. Second of all, because of the nature of him being an apostle, right? He's an apostle, and so he's giving his account in the beginning, as opposed to, for instance, St. Luke, which is eyewitness testimony, but he's going and interviewing people, or St. Mark, which is Peter's disciple.
St. Peter's,
dictating.
Mark is Peter's account,
which
is why Peter is like bashed the most in Mark's. Like Peter is very hard on himself in Mark's gospel. So if you read it with that in mind, you'll see.
It'd be like me writing your gospel.
Yeah, exactly.
I would rip on you so hardcore.
It's so important. It's a great question, and I'll just say this one last thing about it. Catholic theology, it's so beautiful and it's so rich that there's literally a theological note attached to the order of the Gospels. Did you know that? Like, we get down into, you are, as a Catholic, supposed to believe, at least with a certain deference of intellect and will, that Matthew is given first. It's not de fide, but you're supposed to give a deference of intellect and will to it.
Do you believe that Matthew's Hebrew manuscript was something like a Q document?
A Q document? What would that be?
It's the theory that the synoptic all came from a single source,
and they all no, that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no, I don't believe that. I think there's a lot of evidence to show from just the different styles of the apostles and the different texts that we do have, that they are pretty different in their context. So hey, Crypto, you are killing it tonight. How do you
is this because you cashed in all your Bitcoin right before it dropped or something? Like
wait, before we even do this one, that theory is absurd to me, especially for what Nick just said. Second, Matthew's is written to the Jews.
Yeah.
Luke's is written to the Gentiles. Mark's is Peter's account, and then you have this theory that the Gospel of John is written by a community of writers, and it's like it's such a preposterous thing. Like, it is clearly written by the Apostle John. It is just so rich that it had to be written by John.
And you can clearly see the influence of the Blessed Virgin on Luke's account.
Yeah. Agreed. How do you feel about Latin Rite Catholics getting their kids communion and confirmation Eastern Rite, even if they are Latin Rite? Latin Rite probably not right about sacraments since the 12th century at least. So there is, of
You mean
course,
like the order of the sacraments, the difference there? Is that what he's talking about?
I think he's probably talking about the nature of when infants are allowed to receive
Right.
Infants are allowed
confirmation.
to receive communion
Eucharist.
and confirmation.
Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
right.
So background for people who maybe don't know, it's a great question. In the early church, infants received baptism, confirmation, Eucharist as an infant, all together, one go. As time developed and as theology became more precise, the Latin rites essentially came up with the system that we essentially have today, which is a variation. You're baptized at infancy, confirmed later on, Eucharist, etc.
I don't think that's wrong.
I don't think it's wrong either. The East still practices it the same way that the early church does. I think so. Neither of them are intrinsically wrong. They're both fine in and of themselves. But I think that the Western Rite is actually better because it takes into account some real notions about, for instance, confirmation, about the reality of fighting the world, the flesh, and the devil, and knowing about that. Eucharist, about also knowing what you're taking part of as a willful decision. To answer that specific question about getting your kids, though, the church has traditionally said that you are really supposed to stay within your right unless there's some type of grave cause to go outside of that. A grave cause would be something like, kind of like, I really love this girl and I'm needing to marry her, and it's only can take place really in an Eastern Rite context, or, I'm on my deathbed and I need the sacraments, some type of grave cause that would necessitate it. But I will say that I am out of focus, bro. It's so true. So true, dude. I will say this will make people mad, but the moral manuals are clear on this. If you only had, let's say, an Eastern Catholic church around you and no other Western Rite churches, you're automatically dispensed from even Sunday obligation, because they thought that the moralists thought it would be too weird for you to go and experience that kind of a culture shock. Basically, rule of thumb, the rite you're baptized in is the rite you need to stay in.
So I would even say the communion at 7.
Thanks, Angela. Appreciate it.
Communion at 7 years old is so the wisdom behind that, right? So as a parent, your children lose their innocence at 7. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I watched this with all 3 of my kids. At 7 years old, that is when your kids lose their innocence. They start to tell little lies and they see what they can get away with. Before that, there's an innocence about it. They may, hide something from you, but they're not consciously lying to you before that. But at 7 years old, there's a wisdom in that. That is when kids really do need to start going to reconciliation and penance. They need to do it at 7 years old. So there really is a deep wisdom in that age 7 that I think the church thought through.
Yeah, I think that Pius X was right. I think that we do have, unfortunately, an abuse of communion. I don't think we teach it correctly, like on how to prepare for it at all anymore. And you can thank the whole spirit of the council for that.
What do you think? What do you think about weekly communion?
I think I'm 1000% pro daily communion if you follow the directives of Pope St. Pius X, which is, and most people, it's like, I'm not trying to put you guys on the spot here, but it's like, do you guys know the directives off the top of your head, or at least a few of the rules of like what's necessary for daily communion?
No.
Rob probably knows. Rob knows all kinds of stuff.
Well, I know you need to have the proper disposition. So, and that's more than just being in a state of grace. Exactly. You need to be more or less in the right frame of mind, which is why it's sometimes really hard to receive it, like the Novus Ordo.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know that's something. I don't know what the others maybe are.
You got the core. That's the big one. It's essentially, there's a lot of different prescriptions, but you could summarize it all into, you obviously have to be free from mortal sin. And when I say free, I mean not in a state of mortal sin.
Right.
You also have to be deliberately trying to get rid of venial sins. And if possible, you need to have confessed at least all your venial sins before Mass. If possible, that's not a strict requirement, but if possible. You also need to be of the disposition of cleaning up your non-sinful imperfections, your quirks, etc. You also have to know what you're receiving, and therefore make proper, Thanksgiving.
Now, all these things that you're saying, you would think if you go into them knowing that that receiving daily communion will actually help you to achieve these things. Like it will actually assist you in that whole thing. Where if you're just going to daily communion without thinking about those things, you're not even going to be working on them.
It's that thought's so scary to me, going to daily communion without even thinking about it. I'm just what you're spiritually doing to your soul so bad. So any final questions for me before we
what's funny is generally the people that are able to go to, daily mass are of the older generation and have no idea about any of that stuff.
They're retired and they have the ability to do it. So, all right, look, guys, we have to let Nick go. We're going to wrap this one up. All right. So tomorrow night, we're going to have Christian Wagner on with Nick, and we'll get let's just do Thomism. Let's get into Thomism because he is good in Thomism. Let's not do a debate.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into some theological topics and just discuss some really deep stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'm about it.
Nick, if you have any things you want to bring up and talk about, bring them to the table.
Yeah, that should be cool. I mean, I think Christian and I probably agree on 99.9% of things. I think we probably just disagree on probably some certain aspects of U.S. politics and certain aspects of church politics.
Let's just rip on SCOTUS the whole time.
The show should just be called "Why Scotism Sucks," and we'll have Gideon.
Gideon will love that. Gideon will definitely come on with us after that.
That'd be fun.
I love Wagner stuff. He guided me to read the books that changed my faith. I'm interested in talking to him. So
yeah.
And look, you're helping people. I go to daily mass and I wasn't even aware of that. So all right, guys. We'll rag on him for that a little bit. We'll find out why.
He'll apply some type of Tridentine era level of obedience to a leftist modern situation.
We'll get into stuff. There will be debate. We're gonna obviously call him out for thinking Pope Francis is the most base pope ever, but I don't want that to be the whole show. I would rather discuss Thomism. I want to learn some stuff. If you guys, every time Nick's on, I learn stuff. So we'll go from there. All right, guys, thank you so much for your generosity. The last two shows, they didn't get many views, but you guys compensated for that drastically with your generosity. We love you guys. Thank you so much. I know we didn't do a local show tonight. We will do one tomorrow night. And we'll have some guests lined up soon. We're going to do that show with Patrick Coffin. We got a lot of stuff coming up. I'm sorry I didn't have all the vigor I normally do tonight. I'll try and lose a little bit of weight so I don't look so chubby. I'll see you guys next time. Take us out, Rob.
Adios.